Hey y'all, welcome back to my series where I am sharing with you all my Copic markers and swatching them using the Copic Swatch Cards. Today we are going to do all the E colors, which are the earth tones. As you can see, I have a fair amount and this is a 2-sheet group, so let's get started. All right, y'all, so I have quite a bit of the earth tones. I have 12 for this sheet and another 7 in this sheet. So we're going to start with the first sheet. The earth tones are great for 2 purposes if you are into fashion illustration and design, or if you're character illustration. They are amazing for skin tones and they are amazing for hair. But we have this one, which is an amazing lip color, and I will get to it when I swatch it for y'all. So I'm going to share as I'm swatching what I use these for, but as you can see, I have, this is not all of them, I have a very big collection of the earth tones. I'm always adding because I always want to have a nice variation of hair color and skin tone, and these work so well. When it comes to the earth tones, some of the names have changed. So I have older markers and I still have older names. So we're going to go based on the names of the swatch card and the numbers, and that's how we're going to look at everything as we are swatching. As a refresher, it is great to have these swatch cards. This is premium bond paper, so it's going to last, but it does help to swatch your markers before you start rendering, as you're planning out your color palette and so forth. On the paper you're going to use, below here I have the marker paper, but I tend to render on a mixed media paper, which I will also swatch when I am planning and laying out my color palette. It doesn't prevent me from also swatching on my marker paper and laying out. I love to see the colors side by side, and having these is now going to really help me when I just want to pull colors and determine my color palette, and then I don't always have to do this, but this is a handy trick or tool for you all, and I do recommend always swatch before you get started. Another great thing with swatching before, as you're planning out your color palette, you can see colors side by side, see how they work together if you've got a nice color scheme, especially if it's for a design collection or a fashion illustration, and when it comes to blending your markers. So if you're trying to create your own color and you're using the colorless blender, which we will sort of swatch at the end, there is a spot for it on the last sheet, or if you're just blending without the colorless blender, you can kind of see. So mapping that out is super important, and I do highly recommend that if you are a beginner when it comes to your fashion design and or illustration. So first up on my earth tone swatch card is E000 Pale Fruit Pink. And again, using the chiseled tip of the Copic sketch brush, we're not using the sketch side or the brush side, we're using the chiseled side. We're going to put a little pressure, see how it fits into the box. And we do 3 strokes. We've got the first, the second, and the third, and that nice overlay so we can really see it. As you can see with a color like this that's almost transparent, it builds up really nicely, but great for chiffon fabrics, great for anything that you want to show that transparency. It's got a bit of that pinky undertone. This I have not yet used for skin tone. I might add it in if I want to add a little bit more pinky undertones, especially for people who have that in their skin tone. But it is a beautiful color and I do love it in my collection. Next up is E00 Cotton Pearl. Also a really beautiful, very, very fair kind of pink undertone color. Also great. See how these are, because they're sisters, you could really use these together to get the shadows or the shading using E00 with your E000, and they work really well together. I find that I don't use this for skin tone. I don't think it's realistic enough for it. I think it's a little too pinky. But again, you might add it as another layer if you wanted to get more pinky undertones for your croquis, your fashion illustration, your fashion design. Skipping ahead to E04 Lipstick Rose. The name doesn't lie. I love this color so much, and I use it as a lip color all the time. If I want a more neutral kind of a lip that it doesn't appear like there's lipstick on it or a gloss or anything, E04. It works so well, and it is just such a beautiful tone. So let's swatch it. Look at that color. Coming in a little closer, it looks a little more on the brown side, but it is a beautiful kind of neutral, muted pink, and it is just, oh, it's one of my favorites. I mean, I kind of feel like my lip color is around here, so the buildability is just really great, and it's just a beautiful color. I recommend it for a lip tone. Next up is E09 Burnt Sienna. Again, for the Bob Ross fans, certainly a color that he had on his palette in the oil colors. So Burnt Sienna is great for if you're doing kind of more auburn, reddishy hair. It's got a lot of those red undertones. It can work for skin tone as well. I personally find it that it's great for hair, and it's also good for if you're going for a brown color palette in your garments. I mean, it's got a beautiful depth, and it builds up really nicely. E11 Barely Beige. Beautiful, soft color. It's got a bit of the pinkiness, and it works beautifully for sort of a mid-tone skin tone if that's what you're looking to achieve, but it also just is a great color for garments as well. This I have not used for hair, even if I'm trying to create certain depth, and I'll share with you all some of my E-tones that I do use, like for creating blonde hair, but this is, for me, typically one of my skin tones. Next up in my collection is E13 Desert Sand. Beautiful tone, and one that I do use for skin tones for sure. So again, we're going to chiseled edge, light pressure, 1, 2, 3. I love this one for skin tone. I think it's a beautiful tone. It's got beautiful depth. It does pair well with E11, so you see as sister colors, they work well together, and a standby, again, to be able to create a variety of skin tones. E13 is great for that. Next up, right next door, E15 Earthware, or Earthenware. This is one of the ones they changed the name, so I know it by another name. And chiseled edge. Yeah, they used to call this dark suntan. Oh, gorgeous. This is another one of those earth tones that is great for hair and skin tone. Being able to create that beautiful depth and shadow for your skin tone, but also it's a beautiful color for hair. And again, you can, as you can see, you can work these together so you can get those highlights. And it's also just a great brown in terms of if you're doing, again, your inspiration or your color story for your collection is in the brown variety. I love this. This is, again, a go-to of mine in my collection of markers. Next up, skipping quite a bit ahead, I'm looking at the names and I'm like, oh, I've got to check those out. If you're familiar, Copic has an app. If you're not familiar, check it out. And you can see all the markers swatched up there, again, with the gradation of 1 stroke, 2 stroke, 3 strokes. So when you're coming to purchase markers, if you want to see what they look like before, the app is really wonderful for that. You can also save and have favorites and the ones you've purchased so you can keep track of which markers you have. I love it. It's a go-to app, and whenever I'm planning a color palette for a group of paper dolls and I may not have a certain marker or a certain direction, I pop into the app first and foremost and I take a look and I see the colors and the swatches that they have there, and it helps me decide if that color might be appropriate, since sometimes the marker tip color in the cap may not be as reflective as the actual color is. So I highly recommend it. If you're not familiar, Copic does have an app. I do recommend checking that out. E23 is another favorite. I just love all these earth tones, and it is so good for hair and skin tone. And really just a beautiful brown for, again, if you're trying to create leathers, or if you're trying to create, again, a palette that has those shades in there. Again, chisel tip, we're gonna go. Ah, so beautiful. It is just such a brown. And so for the darker skin tones, it works really well. It has beautiful depth. You can really build it. And it also works really well for hair. Brown hair, you can see how you can create the lighter tones, the highlights, and go darker and build with it. Another fave. Next up is E30 Bisque. This is one of the first colors, E30 and E31, that we were required in school to get when we were learning to illustrate and render the fashion figure, the croquis. This is a very fair skin tone, but it's a go-to. I put this tip, this is one I refill a lot, so I put the tip backwards so you can't see the number, but this is the one we are swatching now. This is, again, a great tone. This is for fair skin tone, builds up really nicely. You can shade with it, or you can use E31 for those shadows, and I'll swatch that one next so you'll see. So these sister colors work well together for a fairer skin tone. So E31 Brick Beige, which on its own I think is a great skin tone. It's a little warmer, it's a little darker, so when you want to have variation, as you can see, you have all these beautiful earth tones to work with. And these two work well as sister colors, as I said, and this if you want to create really dramatic shadows for E30, but you can also shade with it because it builds so nicely. Skipping ahead to E34, Toast, another fave, and certainly one that I use a lot for skin tone. It's a nice, dark, rich tone. I really love this color. It's just gorgeous. And if you have E31 with E34, this can also give you really dramatic shading for E31. Last up on this sheet is E39 Leather. I love using E39 for hair. It really is good for leather because it's that natural sort of leather tone, and you can build it up, but it's also just a beautiful brown and it has a bit of that reddishy undertone, not as much as burnt sienna, but it really is a gorgeous color, and I think it pairs well with hazelnut and another color that I have on the next sheet. So let's dive into the next sheet. Okay, so for the second earth tone sheet, I have 7, and we're going to start right away with E40 Brick White. This one may be a little hard to see, it's quite light, but it's really good for creating the shadows if you're going for a white and you want to kind of bump up the white of the page. So for shading, this is really good. It has almost that bone color that was really popular like in the 90s. So I've used this primarily for shading when I do white clothes, any kind of garment that is inspired by that. White color palette if it's, you know, sweaters and stuff like that. And it works really well on the lighter tone for that. Later on in the next part of this series, I'll also show you which markers I use to do that with the warm and the cool grays, but Brick White is really nice for that. The next one that I have is E42 Sand White, and I love this tone with YR30, and I mentioned this when I did the yellow reds, but these two together, if you're looking to create a beautiful rich blonde hair that isn't too yellowy, almost a little on the platinum side, but plays up on the way we have when people have blonde hair, the slightly darker roots. This really, E42 and YR30 play really well together, and I can show you, if you all are interested, let me know in the comments how to create blonde with these two, if that's something that is relevant to your illustrations, designs, etc. And that is what I have primarily used it for. It does kind of have a beige, light khaki vibe to it, and it builds up really nicely, so you can use it to shade its base. Otherwise, I have not used this for skin tone. This is for me in the hair category. Next up is E49 Dark Bark. I love this color. I recently purchased this and I got it because I needed to create the brown pants for Ernest Menville in my Death Becomes Her PaperDolls, which if you've watched this whole series, you've heard me talk quite a bit about, because that was quite the collection and I added a lot of markers at the time. This is such a great color for dark brown hair. Lately it's been like my go-to all the time. Already had to refill it a few times, and you'll see that the brush tip is backwards, so we're going to flip the marker, but this is E49. I love this for hair. It is so beautiful, and it's like so chocolatey and rich, but it kind of has sort of violet and dark red kind of undertones, and it works really well for brown sort of slacks that Bruce Willis is wearing in Death Becomes Her as Ernest Menville. Looking at some of the ones I don't have E47, which is dark brown. This is shocking to me because 47 is my favorite number, so I need to check this out on the Copic app and see if that brown is relevant to my future PaperDolls. Skipping ahead to E57 Light Walnut. This is the brown I was referencing in the previous sheet that I absolutely love when it comes to pairing it with hazelnut E23, sometimes with E39 leather. It is just such a beautiful brown, and it works really well for skin tone, and it works really well for hair, and it has become quite the favorite. So just look at that. It has a softness to it, a warmth. I love light walnut. Highly recommend this if you are sort of slowly building your collection of markers, if you're a beginner when it comes to fashion illustration, fashion design, or rendering, you know, characters or whatever. Such a great color. It is so versatile. skipping ahead to E71 Champagne. This is one of those colors that I purchased before I had the app, so I wasn't able to see it, and I was purchasing online, and I was looking for what I had in my mind was kind of a bubbly yellow that's light but also transparent, and I thought, well, champagne, thinking of what champagne looks like, and no, it is a great color, but it wasn't what I expected. So to me, this has almost like, oh, some lavender undertones. I don't get champagne. I'm not sure why it's called champagne, but it's a really cool color, and I'm always trying to incorporate it because it's so unique, and I haven't used it too often, but there's just something about it I like, and the name always trips me up, but it's a really cool color, E71. Hopping down right below, skipping a whole bunch. I love this cashew. I need these colors. But the next one that I have is E84, and it's khaki. And kind of your very traditional, it's got that slightly green, slightly yellow undertones. It is your very much a khaki color, and it's one of the ones that's very similar to the brush, or to the cap, excuse me. And I don't recall what I purchased this one for. I was probably doing some kind of military style inspired look. It's very much that color. So if you're looking for a khaki, this is true to its name. All right, last one on the second sheet of the earth tones that I have is E97 Deep Orange. And I'm looking at these names and I'm like, ooh, Tea Rose, I gotta check that out. Fig, Baked Clay, beautiful names. So I'm really curious what those ones look like. I don't have them. Deep Orange, what a great color. And it's interesting how these three, like, you can see that they're kind of tonal, they're the similar family, or analogous, if you will, and they have just a really beautiful tone. No other way else to put it. Deep Orange is good if you're trying to create the layers and the variations of red hair. So, and I can show you all that if you guys want to see how to create red hair. I did that for when I did a Jessica Chastain paper doll, and I used a bunch of earth tones together to create the lights and the darks, and I wound up using 3, if I recall correctly, different tones to create red hair, because you don't want it to look too orange. It's like the same thing with blonde. You don't want it to look too yellow. So there's ways to do that by breaking down the different tones in those hair colors, which is different to browns, which can sometimes be easier to render. So there you have it. Those are the 19 tones, shades, tints that I have in the earth tone group of colors swatched on my Copic Swatch Cards. I'm super excited. It's wonderful to see them this way and kind of have a nice layout, especially when I'm planning a group. And again, I want to have a nice variation when it comes to hair and skin tones. So super excited to have this now swatched. In the next part of the series, I will be sharing with you all my cool grays, my neutral grays, my tonal grays, which I'm only recently getting into, so I believe I only have one, warm grays, which I absolutely love, and the final sheet of the Copic Swatch Cards is the fluorescent colors, which I do not have any of. And here are these, I'm not actually sure what the A stands for, but I do have a colorless blender. I don't have the true blacks, so I'll share with you when in the next part. I use the neutral grays for my blacks, and specifically my favorite is N10. So I can't wait to swatch those all with you together and share how I use them. As always, y'all, I appreciate you joining me to swatch all these colors and listen to me ramble on about what you can use them for. I'm really passionate about color theory. I'm really passionate about Copic markers. So I hope you enjoyed this video and the series in general. If you did enjoy it, be sure to like, comment, subscribe. Join me in the next part as we swatch more colors. If you have any questions about these colors, feel free to ask me in the comments. If you want to see any particular videos of how I use some of these, if it's skin tone or hair color, I would love to share those with you. As always, thank you so much for joining me today in the studio, and I will see you in part 7 of this series.